Welcome to the sleepy universe, where science becomes story and stars speak in whispers. Close your eyes, slow your breath. Tonight the cosmos will lull you to sleep. It begins with a breath, not yours, but something older. A breath so slow and wide it moves, not lungs, but galaxies. You close your eyes and drift into the black, past the spiral arms of stars, past the warm glow of clustered light, until you reach the hush between. It is not empty here. The silence between galaxies is not a silence of absence, but one of awe. Deep, velvety, thick as midnight snow. You find yourself suspended in this hush, and the first thing you feel is how still it is, and how wide, all around you, galaxies hang like fireflies in syrup. They do not blink or flicker. They shine with the patience of billions of years, their light arriving not in seconds or hours, but in the slow stride of cosmic time. You reach out your thoughts and touch the space between them. And even though it feels quiet, you begin to notice something strange. These galaxies are not still. They are drifting. Not aimlessly, but purposefully, like lanterns slowly pushed apart by a current you cannot see, like boats on a dark tide. You float with them, weightless, timeless. In this silence, you notice, the space itself seems to stretch, not because the galaxies are moving through it, but because the fabric of space itself is expanding. It's as if the universe is gently exhaling, and the breath is still going. But what breathes a universe? What expands it like a slow balloon with no center? You wonder this, not with urgency, but with wonder, the way a child wonders at a sky too, wide to hold. It wasn't always this way, the scientists say. There was a time when everything, light, matter, thought, was curled tight, pressed into a space so small it had no edge. Then came the fire, the burst, the unfolding, the big bang, not an explosion in space, but an explosion of space. And ever since, the galaxies have been drifting apart, like glitter flung from an unseen hand. At first, it made sense. Things expand, then slow. Gravity pulls, the fire fades. But the universe had a different story in mind. It is this unexpected story you now find yourself inside. You drift in the dark and feel it, not just the motion of the galaxies, but the quiet acceleration between them. Not just movement, but urgency growing with time. Something is pushing them. Not a wind, not a force from within each galaxy, but a deep, invisible pressure rising between them. A gentle, insistent swell. This is the mystery the silence hides, not why the galaxies move, but why they move faster and faster apart. The darkness between them, it turns out, is not dead space. It is not vacuum. It is not nothing. It is filled with a presence that science cannot yet name with certainty, but one we now call dark energy. You feel its touch not as a breeze, but as a stretch, an uncoiling of the fabric beneath you. It does not roar, it whispers, it does not glow, it makes space grow, and the more space it makes, the more room it has to make even more. A quiet runaway motion, like a thought unfolding into a dream that never ends. You drift past a cluster of galaxies bound tight, together a place where gravity still clings to its own. Here, galaxies dance in circles, held by invisible threads of mass, but even here, the influence of that strange energy seeps in. Over billions of years, even these bound systems may loosen. The farther you go, the lonelier the galaxies become. They move away not just from you, but from each other. Each one a glowing island, sailing into deeper isolation. You begin to wonder, is this what the future looks like? A sky where every galaxy has slipped out of sight, leaving behind a darkness that deepens with time. The stars will still shine, the planets still turn, but the sky will feel less crowded, more quiet. And in that quiet, the presence of dark energy will remain. Not loud, not violent, but constant, like the background hum of the universe, thinking dot in the silence between galaxies. You begin to feel something else, the fragility of connection. The fact that we can see these galaxies at all means we are living in a lucky moment. A moment when light still has time to reach us. A moment when the universe is still lit from afar. Billions of years from now, that light may fade, not because it dies, but because it can no longer cross the space that stretches too fast. It is not that the stars blink out. It is that they drift beyond the edge of seeing. You lie back into the stillness and feel it pressing gently around you. This dark energy, this unseen driver of expansion. It is not a villain. It is not malevolent. It simply is. A part of the universe's character that we have only just begun to notice. It shapes everything, not by touching the stars, but by bending the space between them. Like the air in a balloon, it does not push the dots. It expands the canvas on which the dots are drawn. You wonder if this energy has always been here, waiting, or if it awakened only after a certain amount of space appeared. Is it an ancient presence, older than stars, or a new chapter in a story still being written? Some scientists believe it could be a property of the vacuum itself, that even in the quietest, emptiest places, energy flickers. Others think it might be a field we have not yet found, a kind of cosmic tide that ebbs and flows beyond our senses. And so, you float here, not with fear, but with reverence. You do not need to solve the mystery tonight. You only need to feel it, the way a sailor feels the sea before learning to chart its currents. You become aware that the universe is more than light, more than matter, more than even time. It is space itself, growing, stretching, breathing, and in that breath is a quiet question. What makes the cosmos expand when gravity should pull it still? This question does not press urgently. It waits patiently, like the stars. It holds no threat, only wonder. You listen to the silence again, and now it sounds fuller. Not like silence at all, but like the deep hum of a song too low for ears. A song you might one day understand. For now, you drift, you rest, you listen, and somewhere beyond the nearest galaxy, the universe continues to stretch, quietly, relentlessly, like time itself, unspewed, in this silence. A new thought begins to form, not about the galaxies themselves, but about how they move, about how the very space between them grows, not as a remnant of an old explosion, but as something happening now, right now, everywhere. You begin to wonder, ... If the expansion isn't fading, then what is making it speed up? At first it was assumed the universe would slow down, that the great outward rush from the Big Bang would one day grow tired, like a breath exhaled so far it finally folds inward again. That gravity, quiet but patient, would call everything home, stars, galaxies, nebulae, all pulled back into a final stillness, a long sigh at the end of time. But the universe, it seems, has no intention of stopping. You are floating again, stilled in the dark. Galaxies gleam around you like distant buoys on a calm sea. You watch their slow drift, expecting some sign of hesitation, a deceleration, but instead you notice the distance growing faster. Not a steady pace, but an acceleration. Each moment farther than the last. Each breath stretching the space more than the one before. It's counterintuitive. You imagine a stone tossed into the air. It slows, pauses, then falls. Expansion should behave the same, shouldn't it? But out here, beyond gravity's grasp, the stone doesn't fall. It doesn't even slow. It speeds up, as if an invisible hand is still pushing it, long after the throw. As if something deeper than force is woven into the very fabric of space. The astronomers of Earth once looked into the sky, expecting to see evidence of that slowing. They studied the afterglow of massive stellar deaths, ancient supernova, because those explosions burn with predictable brightness, a kind of cosmic lighthouse. By comparing how bright they appear from here, they could measure how far away they are, and how fast they are receding. The results startled everyone. Those lighthouses were dimmer than they should have been, not because they were fading, but because they were farther away than expected. The light had traveled across a universe that expanded more than anyone had imagined. The galaxies were not just moving away, they were accelerating. You picture it now, stars exploding like brilliant clocks, marking time across the dark. There, light traveling for billions of years, stretching thin with every mile. And still, that light reaches us. It arrives with a message folded inside. The universe is speeding up. The expansion that began in fire has not faded. It has quickened. This realization feels like opening a book you thought you understood, only to find the next page written in a new language. Gravity is still here, yes, binding planets to stars, stars to galaxies. But on the grandest scale, something else holds sway. Something stronger than gravity when distances grow wide. Something that doesn't pull, but pushes. You feel it again, that quiet pressure, not on your skin, but on space itself. Imagine baking dough filled with raisins. As the dough rises, the raisins move apart, not because they're pushing each other, but because the dough stretches. In all directions, the galaxies are raisins. The universe is the dough, but this dough is not slowing down in the oven. It's rising faster and faster. You drift beside a galaxy whose light left it long before Earth had countenance. You picture that light moving outward, not across a fixed landscape, but through space that's growing beneath it. A light beam, born in one moment, must cross a universe that is expanding as it travels. So the farther away a galaxy is, the faster it seems to move from us. Not because it's running, but because space itself swells between us. This is Hubble's law, a quiet truth discovered decades before the acceleration was known. The farther something is, the faster it appears to flee. But now, the slope of that flight is steepening. The velocity is rising. Galaxies are not just following the law of expansion, they are writing a new law into it. A law of speeding emptiness. And that emptiness, ironically, is not empty at all. It holds within it the essence of dark energy, a force that doesn't concentrate in galaxies, but in the vacuum itself, a presence that grows as space grows, that fills the increasing volume with more of itself. It's not like gravity, which weakens with distance. Dark energy strengthens as space expands, because more space means more dark energy. A paradox you feel in your bones as you float farther into the cosmos. You think of time now, not as hours or days, but as an unfolding, as the tempo of the universe. If the expansion was slowing, time might eventually wind down to... But if expansion accelerates, then what of time? Does it stretch with space? Is there more time now than before? You inhale slowly, sensing how space-time might itself be breathing. Each breath not in seconds, but in eons. Back on Earth, the tools that once measured stars now measure history. Telescopes peer not just into distance, but into age. Every glimmer from a far-off galaxy is a look into the past. We see them not as they are, but as they were when the universe was smaller. Younger, tighter, as if each photon carries a memory of the old cosmos, before acceleration pulled it wider. The map of this change is painted in red. Redshift, the lengthening of light waves as space stretches between source and observer. The more red, the more distance, the more distance, the more time. And in that time, we see a curve, not a line, a quickening, a deepening, a gentle slope turned steep. The universe doesn't cruise, it accelerates. You wonder what this means for the fate of everything. If expansion keeps growing, will it tear the stars from the sky? Will galaxies vanish into the dark, unreachably distant? Will even atoms feel the pull someday, as some speculate, a big rip where space grows faster than matter can hold itself together? But tonight, you let go of fear. You are not here to predict, only to float, to witness, to listen. And the universe, ever expanding, speaks through motion. Its language is silence, speed, and stretch. Perhaps the most beautiful part of all is that we noticed that amid the cold and the quiet, on a small blue planet wrapped in atmosphere and sleep, creatures with eyes and mirrors looked up and saw it, saw that the universe is not coasting, but racing ahead, and that something unseen is guiding it. You feel that realization settle into your chest like snow. This isn't just a universe in motion, it is a universe changing how it moves, a cosmos learning to speed. And though we don't yet know why, we know enough to ask. Now you drift again, back into the dark. The stars seem just a little more distant now, as if they too feel the tide between them rising. You are held not by gravity, but by wonder, not pulled, but drawn forward by a question still stretching beyond reach. And in this gentle drift, another thought begins to rise. If the universe is being pulled faster apart, what force dares to oppose gravity itself? There is a stillness in you that mirrors the sky, a breath held between two opposites. On one side, the comforting pull of gravity, the steady hand that gathers, binds, protects. On the other, something less familiar, a quiet push, faint at first, but growing, insistent. As you drift farther into space, you feel this balance shift. Not a battle, but a conversation between the deep weight of matter and the silent pressure of something unseen. You float now in the vastness, where galaxies gleam like scattered embers across an endless plain, and you feel it, the ancient Javor, shaping everything you can see. Gravity, born from matter, calls things together. It sculpts stars from dust, binds planets in orbits, shapes galaxies like whirlpools of light. It is the architect of form. Without it, nothing would hold. Everything would scatter into the dark. But gravity is not alone. There is something else, not a particle, not a wave, not something we can see, but something we can measure in the way the universe behaves. A quiet repulsion woven into the fabric of space itself. Scientists call it dark energy, not because it's made of darkness, but because it hides from detection. It does not clump, it does not glow. It acts not on things, but on space. You imagine two hands, one pulling inward, one pressing out. Gravity's hand grows weaker with distance. Its fingers stretch thin, unable to grasp. But dark energy's hand spreads with space itself. The more space there is, the more it can press. A contest unfolds, not in fire, not in noise, but in the slow rhythm of cosmic time. Long ago, gravity led. When the universe was young and compact, matter ruled the sky. The expansion from the Big Bang began to slow, pulled back by the weight of all things. Galaxies began to form, stars lit their first fires, and the universe settled into structure. For billions of years, it seemed this would continue, a graceful slowing, perhaps ending in a pause, or a return, a great collapse. But then came the surprise. Around 5 billion years ago, just as our sun was forming, just as Earth was being shaped, something began to shift. The slowing slowed, then reversed. The expansion started speeding up. Dark energy, once a quiet undercurrent, became dominant. The great contest had reached a tipping point. You feel that moment now, not as a sudden snap, but as a slow rising. Imagine a heavy pendulum swinging wide and far, slowing, slowing, until it should begin to fall back. But instead, it lifts higher, as if the air itself had learned to lift it. This is the universe's pendulum, once governed by gravity, now lifted by something else. The tipping point is quiet, not explosive, but cumulative. Over time, dark energy outpaces gravity's pull. Galaxies still bind themselves together, stars still orbit their centers, but the spaces between those systems begin to stretch, and they don't just stretch, they accelerate. The farther things are, the less gravity can hold them, the more dark energy can push. You watch this dance unfold across time. In one direction, the universe is past, hot, dense, intimate. In the other, its future, wide, cold, and ever faster. Between them lies now your moment, when the two forces are most delicately matched, not perfectly balanced, but still in dialogue. You exist in the pause between two destinies. Consider the scales. On one side, stars, galaxies, planets, gas clouds, all forms of matter. This matter creates the curves in space that we feel as gravity. It pulls light around corners. It binds galaxies in rotating disks. It gave rise to suns, to Earth, to you. On the other side, something that doesn't gather, doesn't bend, doesn't condense, but grows stronger with the very thing it expands. A kind of energy native to the vacuum, present everywhere, constant or nearly constant, and yet overwhelmingly powerful when given room. You float in a space shaped by both, and you realize this isn't a story of winner and loser. Not yet. It's a story of rhythm, a cosmic tide. When the universe was dense, gravity danced close to center. When the universe stretched, dark energy found its stage. You imagine two waves intersecting, sometimes cresting together, sometimes apart. The tide that once pulled is being overtaken by the tide that pushes. Even here, you feel gravity's echo. It holds your planet to its star, your feet to the ground. It guides the moon's tide and the arc of your breath. But on the grandest scales between galaxies, between clusters, that echo fades. You sense it slipping, outpaced by something subtler. The fabric of space itself is expanding, not because gravity is gone, but because the other hand is now stronger. You ask, where does this dark energy come from? No one knows. Perhaps it is a property of the vacuum, of space itself, a constant energy woven into every inch of existence. Perhaps it is a new kind of field, like the electromagnetic field, but one that fills the cosmos more completely than light. Or perhaps it is something else entirely, not energy, but a rewriting of how we understand gravity itself. Whatever it is, it has weight in the universe's fate. If gravity had won, the universe might have curved inward. Eventually, the expansion would halt, and everything would fall back. Galaxies colliding, stars heating, time compressing into a great finale. But dark energy changed the ending. Instead of collapsing, the universe drifts. It expands forever. Not with a bang, but a glide. A silent slide toward distance. You drift along this slide, held gently in a universe where the center is everywhere and nowhere. There is no middle to flee from. Every galaxy sees others racing away. No matter where you are not at rest. You are part of the swell. And this swell is not mechanical. It feels more like a breathing, a long, slow inhalation of space itself. Back on Earth, telescopes scan the sky for signs of how this tug-of-war unfolds. They measure the shape of galaxy clusters, the temperature of ancient radiation, the ripples in space left by gravitational waves. They listen for echoes of the early universe, hoping to understand the balance of the forces shaping it. And as they listen, they find that the scales are tipping more each day. More space means more dark energy. More dark energy means more expansion. And more expansion means more room for dark energy to grow. It is a feedback loop, a quiet escalation, not of violence, but of volume. Space makes space, and the hand that presses outward grows ever stronger. But still, you float in the pause. A moment of awareness, a breath caught between contraction and flight. You see the galaxies not just as objects, but as players in a wider game. Gravity does not rage. Dark energy does not scream. They speak through motion, a dialect written across light years. Drawn in time, you begin to feel that you, too, are shaped by this contest. Your atoms bound by gravity, your thoughts drifting in. A mind that floats in a galaxy pulled by tides unseen. You are a temporary knot in this vast conversation. A pause between the inward pull and the outward swell. And just before sleep finds you, one last question settles at the edge of your thought. If dark energy won the tug-of-war, how did we first hear its whisper in the light of ancient stars? You lie beneath a sky woven from memory, not your own, but the universe's. A sky made not of darkness, but of stories told in light. Each point above you glows with a tale that began long before you were born. Even the black between the stars hums with what once was, faint photons still arriving, still whispering what happened long ago. You close your eyes and imagine one of those lights, not a steady star, but a flare, a momentary pulse so bright it outshines galaxies. A supernova, the death of a star so massive, so dense, that its collapse becomes a shout across the cosmos. That shout pure light travels, outward, not fading with age, but stretched with distance, stretched by the universe itself. This is where the story begins. To understand how the universe accelerates, how dark energy revealed itself at all, you must follow the light. Not just any light, but ancient light from dying stars. Supernova. More specifically, Type Ia became the measuring sticks of the cosmos. Why? Because they shine with the same brightness wherever they are. A kind of cosmic candle, always lit with the same fire. You drift with one such candle now, watching it bloom in the distance. For a brief moment, it burns with 1 billion times the light of a sun, It radiates outward in all directions, and some of that light heads your way. But between you and the supernova, space is growing. Not fast, not loud, just enough to stretch every wave of light as it moves. A long, slow pulling. By the time that light reaches us, it carries two messages: how bright it was when it left, and how much the universe has changed since. If it looks dimmer than it should, we know it has traveled farther. And if its color shifts red, stretched like a violin string, plucked more slowly, we know the space between has expanded. Astronomers once used this candlelight to confirm a comforting thought: the universe is slowing down. That gravity is gradually pulling everything back. But when they looked farther, when they measured supernova even more ancient, something didn't fit. The lights were dimmer than expected. The stretch of red was too great. The stars were farther away than they should be. And so, quietly, a new truth emerged. The universe isn't just expanding, it's accelerating. You float in the moment of that realization, as if the stars themselves had leaned forward to whisper a secret we weren't meant to hear so soon. That expansion is speeding up, that the breath of the cosmos, instead of exhaling slowly to stillness, is growing longer, deeper, faster. And it was light that told us. Imagine that, photons, weightless travelers, bearing witness to a force we cannot touch. Light, which never ages, stretched by space, changed by time. It brings us not only images of the past, but messages about the present. It taught us the story wasn't ending the way we thought. You follow another photon now, born from a star. Long gone, it carries within it the moment of its origin, a place, a brightness, a time. It has crossed not just billions of miles, but billions of years. As you move alongside it, you see how space stretches beneath its path. The farther it travels, the more it slows. Not because it's tired, but because the road is growing as it walks, back on Earth. Telescopes gather this light like nets, catching moths in the night. These telescopes are not just eyes, they are clocks. They measure distance with brightness. They measure time with color. They decode the history of the universe by reading the letters written in light. From these readings, patterns emerge. Supernova close to us glow predictably, but farther ones, they reveal the deepening mystery. As if the more we look, the more the sky reveals a story that isn't linear, but curved a tempo that changes with the score. The light that arrives now left its source before Earth had trees, before the sun had planets, before dark energy had claimed the stage, and yet here it is, quietly drifting through the vacuum, offering itself to us like a letter found in a bottle. When astronomers read it, they understood the universe differently. The expansion wasn't winding down, it was ramping up. Dark energy wasn't a footnote. It was the current carrying the stars. This revelation came not from force or theory, but from observation, from listening, from watching lights fade in the sky and asking why. The universe had written its autobiography in photons, and we had only just learned how to read them. You think of the universe now not as a machine, but as a canvas. Space is not passive, it is dynamic, stretching behind the scenes of every celestial motion. And light is not simply illumination, it is the record, the signature, the storyteller. But what a strange storyteller it is. It tells the truth, but only through riddles. It speaks in waves and shifts, in delays and stretches. It brings the past to us, but never the present. Every glimmer you see is old. Every star you wish on is gone or changed. The sky is memory, not presence. And yet, from this memory, we learn something new, the presence of something we cannot see, shaping everything we do. You lie back again in the dark and feel the soft echo of that idea. Light, stretched across time, reveals the fingerprints of a force without shape. Dark energy is not in the light. It is in the way the light has changed. And that change is everywhere. You look up at the stars and realize they are not where they seem to be. They are farther. Their light has stretched. Their signal carries the hush of expansion. And through them, the universe speaks of a push, a quiet drift, an ever-widening breath. So when you gaze at the night sky, you are not just stargazing. You are reading. You are listening to the silence between the notes. You are following the line of a sentence that began before your world did, still unfolding. You begin to wonder what else this light could reveal, not just about distance and speed, but about the very fabric of what's expanding. You begin to wonder, if space itself can stretch, what is it made of? You are floating in a darkness that feels like silence, but it is not empty. It presses gently on your thoughts like a question that cannot be put into words. Around you, stars are distant memories, galaxies thin to mist, and space stretches wide, not a backdrop, but a living presence. You are wrapped in what we call nothing, and yet you feel it. A hum beneath stillness, a rhythm without sound. You've been taught to think of emptiness as absence, a glass with no water, a room with no air, a sky without clouds. But out here, between stars and atoms, nothing is never truly nothing. Even when all light fades, even when all particles vanish, space remains. And space, this vast, silent ocean, is not passive. It seethes, it swells, it stretches. You ask the question gently, what is nothing made of? And in response, the universe offers not silence, but subtle movement. Not speech, but flicker. A kind of energy too small to hold, yet too vast to ignore. This is the strange truth science has uncovered, that even in a perfect vacuum, when no particles drift and no radiation glows, something stirs. This is the vacuum energy. The low, low hum of being. Imagine staring at a single patch of empty space, perfectly devoid of matter. You wait, you expect stillness. But the closer you look, the more it writhes. In the world of quantum physics, this nothingness is not still, it is teeming. Tiny pairs of particles flicker into existence, then vanish. They are born from the vacuum, exist for the briefest sliver of time, and then return to where they came from. These are virtual particles, not imaginary, but ephemeral. They cannot be directly seen, but their fingerprints are everywhere. They influence the behavior of real particles. They shift the energy levels of atoms. They change the rules of how light and matter interact. They are the flickers of possibility that exist even in silence. This vacuum energy is not just a curiosity of small scales. It may be the very breath behind cosmic expansion. Dark energy, the force accelerating the universe, might be the same trembling of quantum nothingness, scaled up to cosmic size. What we call nothing may in fact be the engine of everything. You float in that idea for a while. It's hard to hold, but easy to feel. Imagine space not as a smooth sheet, but as a restless surface, not flat, but jittering, even in darkness. Even when cooled to absolute zero, space cannot sit still. The uncertainty woven into quantum physics guarantees it. Energy never truly vanishes. It fluctuates. It trembles. And these fluctuations add up. One theory suggests that the cosmological constant, Einstein's famous placeholder for a repulsive force in space, could simply be the energy of the vacuum, the weight of nothing. The more space there is, the more vacuum. The more vacuum, the more energy. And the more energy, the faster the universe expands. It's a feedback loop, born not from fire, but from stillness. You pass through a region of space that seems utterly empty. No stars, no dust, no radiation, and yet something there, gently, warps your path, as if the very fabric beneath you has a texture, a tension. Scientists have measured this effect. Quantum fields fill every inch of space, even when stripped of all particles. They ripple, softly, constantly. They cannot be turned off. One such field, the Higgs field, gives mass to particles. It stretches invisibly across the entire cosmos. Without it, nothing would have substance. Another field gives rise to electromagnetic forces. Another governs gravity. These fields are not laid over space. They are space. Or, perhaps more precisely, space is the stage where all fields dance. You begin to realize that nothingness is not empty. It is layered first. There is the absence of matter. Then, beneath that, the trembling of quantum fields. Beneath that, perhaps something even deeper, a structure we do not yet have words for. String theory imagines a foam of dimensions curled too tightly to see. Loop quantum gravity pictures space as woven from microscopic loops. We do not yet know, but the implications are clear. Space has energy, energy has gravity, and gravity bends space. Therefore, even nothing, if filled with vacuum energy, can push on the universe. It can cause expansion. It can stretch time. It can oppose gravity itself. And this stretching is not limited to the distant reaches. It happens here, now, between your fingers, between the atoms in your skin, on scales too small to affect your life directly. Yes, but it is real. The fabric of the universe is expanding everywhere. You are expanding, infinitesimally, invisibly, as space grows under your breath. You exhale slowly and feel the reach of that truth. Expansion is not only a matter of galaxies, it is a property of the very stage we exist upon, and the energy responsible for that expansion is not added from outside. It is born from within space itself. Some have called this the energy of the void. Others, more poetically, name it the cosmic sea. But no name is quite right, because what we are learning is that emptiness is not the absence of being. It is being in its most subtle form. You drift now through a dream of equations, curved lines, infinite sums, integrals that reach toward the edge of comprehension. The math that describes this vacuum energy is elegant, yet troubling. When physicists try to calculate the total energy of the quantum vacuum, they arrive at a number so vast it breaks the universe. It predicts far more expansion than we observe, a number 100 orders of magnitude too large. And yet, the universe is expanding. Not wildly, but persistently. This mismatch between what theory predicts and what we observe is one of the greatest puzzles in physics. We know there is vacuum energy. We know it accelerates the cosmos. But we do not understand how much, or why it behaves as it does. The mystery of dark energy and the mystery of what nothing is may be the same dot. And so you float with questions. You no longer fear the void. You respect it. You understand that it is not empty, not idle. It holds potential. It shapes reality. It is not a pause between things, but the foundation upon which all things rest. Tonight, space is not a container. It is a character. Its silence is not quiet. It is full of hums, too deep to hear. And this hum may be the engine behind the galaxy that drifts, every star that burns, every moment that stretches. As you close your eyes again, you begin to wonder, if nothing is made of energy, then what shape does that energy give the universe itself? Tonight, the sky no longer feels like a ceiling. It stretches too far, too patiently. There is no edge, no frame, only an endless unfolding. And yet, you begin to wonder if the universe is expanding. If space is not just growing but shaped, then what is that shape? What kind of fabric are you floating through? You imagine a surface without walls. You spin in it gently, expecting to fall, but you never do. You turn without end. Left becomes right, forward becomes behind, and space, though immeasurable, begins to feel curved, not in the way a hill curves beneath your feet, but in a deeper, quieter sense, as if direction itself has been folded into something soft and strange. Science has asked the same question. What shape is the universe? Not the objects within it, not stars or galaxies or clusters, but space itself, the background, the silent host. Is it curved in on itself, like a sphere, stretched open, like a saddle, or balanced, like a flat plane extending forever? The answer lies not in what you see, but how things move. You float beside a beam of light, thin, perfect, ancient. It travels straight, unbent, like a quiet promise whispered across time. If the universe is truly flat, then this beam will never stray. Its path will not bend, even as space stretches beneath it. But if space is curved, then light follows those curves. Over vast distances, even the tiniest tilt becomes profound. So scientists looked to the oldest light, the cosmic microwave background, the afterglow of the Big Bang, a whisper from when the universe was only 380,000 years old, before galaxies, before stars, just light and matter cooling into form. This light holds a memory of the universe's earliest shape, frozen into its pattern. When we observe it, we see not a blur, but a speckled tapestry, tiny fluctuations in temperature spread across the sky. These patterns are not random. They reflect the geometry of space itself. Like the lines on a map reveal the shape of the Earth, these temperature ripples reveal the shape of the cosmos. And what do they show? Flatness, not perfect, not proven, but persistent. Over and over, the measurements whisper the same word, flat, not curled inward, not arched outward, just wide, just still. A quiet balance between gravity pulling and dark energy pushing. A universe, balanced on the edge of curve, but flatness, here, does not mean bland or simple. A flat universe can still stretch forever. It can still evolve, drift, darken. It means only this, that parallel lines remain parallel, that a triangle's angles still add up to 180 degrees, that light, across great distances, travels as though the stage beneath it does not bend, and yet you feel something deeper pressing through this shape, a tension, because this flatness is delicate. For the universe to be flat now, it must have been nearly perfectly flat at the beginning. Any tiny deviation, any extra curve, would have grown wildly over time. The early universe must have been tuned to a degree so precise it defies chance. Like walking a tightrope across infinity, never swaying left or right. This leads you to another idea. Inflation, not economic, but cosmic. A theory that, in its first fraction of a second, the universe expanded exponentially, doubling in size. again and again, faster than the speed of light. This inflation would have smoothed out any bumps, flattened any curves, like stretching a balloon until its surface feels flat to any tiny creature walking upon it. You drift back in time now, gently, to that moment, the first instant after birth, the universe, smaller than an atom, pulsing with energy, inflating. Not like an explosion, but like a balloon filled from within. Space itself growing faster than anything inside it could move. And when this surge slowed, what remained was vast, cool, and flat. From this flatness came everything. You open your eyes again and see the stars, not as points, but as proof. Their light reaches you through paths shaped by space, and space, in turn, is shaped by energy. Gravity curves it in. Dark energy stretches it out. The shape of the universe is the record of their endless conversation. But the shape is not just abstract. It decides the universe's destiny. A closed universe, curved inward like a sphere, might one day stop expanding and fall back in on itself. A great crunch, an echo of its beginning, an inward breath, an end. An open universe, curved outward like a saddle, would expand forever, growing colder, thinner, more silent with each passing age. But a flat universe, like the one we seem to live in, floats in between. It balances, it does not return, it does not fall apart quickly. It glides forward on a silent tide of expansion, letting time slip slowly through its fingers. You drift in that balance now, not toward doom, not toward collapse, but toward solitude. The future, if flatness holds, is not a wall, but a slow vanishing. Galaxies sliding beyond the reach of light, stars cooling to cinders, space stretching so wide that even atoms might come undone. Yet somehow that thought does not frighten you, it soothes. Because you are part of this shape, your body, your breath, your thoughts all unfolding within this silent, curved yet flat tapestry. You are not above the universe, not watching it from outside. You are within it, a ripple in its geometry, a flicker in its field, and you begin to see that the shape beneath the stars is not fixed. It is written in real time by the forces acting upon it, by the matter that bends space, and by the dark energy that stretches it. Even the quiet vacuum between galaxies participates. Even the silence has mass. Even nothing helps shape everything. You wonder, gently, what lies beyond the part of the universe we can see. If it is truly flat, then perhaps it extends forever. Infinite space, infinite stars, infinite time. But if the shape curves subtly, even over distances beyond our reach, then perhaps we live inside a vast cosmic loop, a space where traveling far enough in one direction might one day bring you home again. But tonight, the edge does not matter. Tonight, you lie within the story, not at its boundary. You listen to the shape, not to find its end, but to hear its rhythm, the way it folds light, the way it guides galaxies, the way it lets expansion rise like breath through every point at once. And as the fabric stretches beneath you, you begin to wonder if the shape of the universe is changing, then what happens when space keeps stretching forever? You drift now in a universe that grows not only wider, but quieter. A silence creeps in, not from the absence of sound, but from the vanishing of form. The galaxies are still here, stars still burn, but something beneath it all begins to loosen. You are not falling. You are dissolving into a deeper kind of change, the kind that doesn't shout, the kind that simply is. This is entropy. the slow surrender of structure, the invisible current that pulls all things toward disorder, not in haste, not in violence, but in the patient rhythm of time's breath. Everything, no matter how bright or sharp or ordered, is touched by this law, and you are no exception. You think of a sandcastle on a quiet beach. Its towers rise, sculpted by careful hands, its edges sharp, its form clear. But even without a wave, even without wind, it begins to soften. Grain by grain, the outline blurs, the pattern fades. Not because of force, but because time itself has no reason to preserve it. This is entropy in physics. It's the tendency of systems to move from order to disorder, to spread energy, to equalize temperatures, to smooth sharp edges. Not because something is wrong, but because it is the nature of change. A hot cup of tea cools to room temperature. A drop of ink diffuses in water. A living thing ages. A star burns. And in the universe, as space expands, this softening accelerates. You look again at the stars. Each one is a furnace, burning fuel, radiating heat. But stars are not eternal. They are temporary resistances to entropy, knots of gravity holding structure for a while. They take scattered hydrogen and fuse it into heavier elements. They shine by making order, but in doing so, they also increase disorder elsewhere, casting out heat, spreading photons into the cold. Eventually, the fuel runs out. The balance breaks. The star cools, collapses, or explodes. And with each such death, the universe slides one step deeper into disarray. Galaxies form, stars are born, planets spin. Life, even briefly, dances. But these are pauses, eddies in a river running. Only one way. The arrow of time is not drawn by clocks, but by entropy. We know time is moving forward because the universe remembers less with each breath. You float beside a star in its final hours, a red giant, bloated and unsteady. Its light pulses like a tired heart. You sense the symmetry of its past slipping. Away, once compact, now vast, once focused, now fragile. Its atoms stretch outward. Its heat bleeds into space. You don't hear an ending. You hear a letting go. And this is not just the fate of stars. It is the direction of all things. The expanding universe makes this more certain. As space stretches, it offers more room for energy to disperse, more pathways for heat to travel, more ways for particles to drift apart and never meet again. The structure thins, the detail fades, the memory dissolves. Once all matter and light were pressed into a single point, a tight, ordered state. The Big Bang wasn't just an explosion. It was a beginning of order, a compact, low-entropy seed. Since then, everything has been spreading, cooling, smoothing, from stars to stardust, from galaxies to gaps. And yet, even this loss holds beauty. You think of it now not as destruction, but as diffusion, like perfume fading in a room, like music echoing and then disappearing into silence. The melody does not vanish. It simply becomes harder to hear. Entropy is not a thief. It is a quiet tide pulling patterns back into sea. Even your own body obeys. The warmth in your chest, the spark of each neuron, the pattern of your breath, all of it temporary islands in a rising ocean of disarray. Life is not opposed to entropy. It is a momentary spiral against the current, a dance made brighter by its finiteness. Back on Earth, entropy governs everything you know. Ice melts, memories blur, mountains wear down, even digital files degrade. If you wait long enough, the second law of thermodynamics is not just a rule for stars, it is the hidden beat of every hour, the script written beneath each breath, and yet, the universe is vast enough to hold temporary beauty. You see now that complexity can arise within this drift toward disorder. Galaxies form not in spite of entropy, but because of it. Gravity, pulling matter together, creates pockets of order, even as the total disorder increases elsewhere. You are one such pocket. The stars are another, a flame flaring briefly in the dark. But in the long run, the very long run, even these islands will sink. In trillions of years, stars will fade to embers, planets will be cast adrift, black holes will eat the last remaining matter, even they will evaporate, particle by particle, until only cold radiation remains. The universe will become a quiet, featureless sea of evenly spread energy. No patterns, no light, just a perfect, unbroken sameness. This is called heat death. Not because it is hot, but because all heat will have spread so evenly, no work can be done. No contrast, no memory, no time, as we understand it. A state of maximum entropy, not explosive, but still, not noisy, but final dot. And yet, tonight, that fate feels distant. Not because you deny it, but because it makes now more precious. You exist in the brief window when the universe is still young enough to form patterns, to tell stories, to look inward and wonder, to shine. Entropy may pull at all things, but within that pull something persists. The longing to understand, the flicker of thought, the attempt to notice what is slipping away. Even this chapter, this moment, is a small resistance. A pattern formed in words, a memory etched gently against the current. You float through space now, sensing how far the cosmos has already stretched, how many stars have already faded, how many forms have already melted into heat, and still you are here. Still, the sky holds its breath. Still, there is time, but it is not infinite, not in form. And so you begin to ask softly, without fear or urgency, if memory fades from the stars, can anything at all be remembered forever? The stars above you are not just lights, they are messages. Each one a flicker sent from the past, traveling toward you across distances so vast they erase all urgency. And yet, when that light touches you, it brings with it the memory of where it came from. A shape, a moment, a temperature, a pulse. You lie still in the darkness and ask, can the universe remember? And if so, how? You begin with the simplest memory, light itself. Photons, born in the hearts of stars, travel across the cosmos with unerring loyalty. They do not forget where they began. Their wavelength stretches, their path bends, but their story remains intact. If no dust, planet, or black hole interrupts them, they carry the memory of their source indefinitely. Starlight is the first diary the universe kept. You are reading it now, just by looking up. The cosmic microwave background, that faint, cool glow surrounding everything, is the echo of a time when the universe was still a child. Those photons have been traveling for nearly 14 billion years, gently cooled and stretched by the expanding space they move through. But they still speak. Their patterns still tell us how hot the universe once was, how smooth or clumpy matter once behaved. These memories are soft, but real. But not all memory is light. Some is structure, the arrangement of galaxies across the sky, their filaments, their walls, their vast voids, is a fossil of cosmic beginnings. Tiny ripples in the early universe, shaped by gravity and time, expanded into the sweeping forms we now see. When you float between clusters, you are swimming through the handwriting of creation, and some memory lies in matter. The atoms in your bones, the iron in your blood, the calcium in your teeth were forged in stars, long dead. You carry the fingerprint of stellar explosions. Your body is a story, told in elements that were once light, once dust, once drifting free in space. You are not a separate reader of cosmic memory. You are a page in the book. But what about deeper forms of memory? You turn now to quantum footprints, the strange, delicate traces left behind by the smallest particles. In the quantum world, even possibilities are part of the record. A particle's position is uncertain, yet still constrained by its past, its spin, its charge, its correlations with other particles, all carry whispers of what has been. In this realm, information is sacred. It cannot be destroyed. Physics, as we understand it, does not allow for perfect forgetting. Even when particles collide, or decay, or transform, the total information, the full accounting of what was, must remain. Somehow, somewhere, and yet black holes complicate the story. You drift now near the edge of one, not close enough to fall, but near enough to feel its gravity press on your thoughts. This is the darkest place in space, a region where light cannot escape, where time seems to slow, where all paths curve inward. Black holes swallow matter, light, and with them, memory, or do they? This is the black hole information paradox, a puzzle that has unsettled physics for decades. If a star collapses into a black hole, all the complexity of that star, its composition, its temperature, its structure, seems to vanish. The black hole is described only by mass, spin, and charge. All else, all detail, is erased. When black holes evaporate slowly over trillions of years, through a faint process called Hawking radiation, what remains? Do they return the information they once consumed? Or does the universe truly forget? If information can be lost in this way, it challenges the core of physics. It would mean the universe can shred its own memory. That time could erase not just patterns, but truth. But many scientists believe that memory does persist, though perhaps scrambled, encoded, or hidden in ways we don't yet understand. Some suggest the event horizon, the surface of the black hole, stores information like a hologram. Others think the radiation itself carries the clues, rearranged beyond easy recognition. You imagine a memory burned into fire, not destroyed, but rephrased. Even here, in this place where light cannot escape, the universe resists forgetting. It may bend memory, it may hide it, but it does not truly erase. You drift away from the black hole and think of Earth, of books, hard drives, ancient carvings, neurons firing across a sleeping brain. Human memory is brief, vulnerable, but meaningful. It does not compete with cosmic scale, but it sings on top of it, a melody against the backdrop of time's rhythm. Every story we tell, every photograph, every equation is an attempt to remember, to hold the shape of something against entropy, to draw a boundary around a moment and say, this was real. But even memories made of stone erode. Even thoughts passed from generation to generation change, and yet they ripple forward, in choices, in genes, in starlight still arriving. The universe remembers in its own language, not in words, but in structure, in motion, in possibility. You wonder now if time itself is a kind of remembering. Each moment arises because of what came before. Every effect traces back to a cause, and as entropy increases, the number of possible futures grows, while the number of remembered pasts fades. We do not move through time as a breeze flows through trees, we unfold it. Memory is the direction we move in. The more time passes, the more the past becomes a shadow, softer, blurrier, but not gone. Perhaps the universe does not remember forever. Perhaps it remembers for a while, long enough to give meaning to structure, to let life emerge, to tell stories before they fade. And perhaps that's enough. You lie still again in your quiet sea of stars and listen. The universe does not speak in syllables. It speaks in persistence, in repetition, in light that travels faithfully, in atoms that carry the same charge across billions of years, in quantum fields that never forget the shape of their own equations. There is forgetting, yes, but not all at once. There is loss, but only after meaning has bloomed. In this cosmos, where entropy grows and stars die, the trace of what was still echoes, so you ask, gently now, not out of fear but curiosity. If the universe holds memory in its very fabric, could consciousness be one of its ways to remember itself? You drift through a sea of stars, as you have for what feels like forever, when a question rises quietly in the dark. Who is having this thought? The silence around you has always been vast, but now something within that silence listens. Not the stars, not the atoms, you, and that, somehow, changes everything. Consciousness, not just activity in a brain, not just neurons firing or chemicals moving, but the feeling of being, the awareness that you are here, that you are floating, that you are even wondering. It is not a thing you can hold. It has no weight, no temperature. Yet it is the most intimate truth you know. Where did it come? From you. Look again at your body, made of carbon, calcium, water, protein. None of it magical. None of it separate from the rest of the cosmos. The atoms in your hands were forged in stars. The ions flowing through your nerves were once drifting freely through the early universe. You are made of matter. And matter, for reasons we're still trying to understand, became aware. This awareness did not arrive all at once. It grew slowly through biology, through pattern, through billions of tiny experiments called life. You imagine Earth, long ago, a planet cooled from fire, covered in ocean. In those waters, molecules begin to join and break apart. Some arrangements persist, others fade. Over time, cells emerge. Some can sense light, some can move, some can remember. A billion years pass, nerves cluster, organisms feel, and somewhere along that invisible path, consciousness flickers into being. What began as chemistry becomes sensation. What began as survival becomes thought. And now, here you are, a thinking pattern made of stardust, floating in a sea of galaxies, asking how you can think at all. You are not separate from the universe. You are its echo, its bloom, its reflection. The hydrogen that once drifted freely in space now hums in your bloodstream. The photons that once lit ancient stars now bounce inside your eyes. And the patterns of thought inside your brain, the rhythms, the loops, the symbols are shaped by physical laws born in the same Big Bang that made the stars. So then, is consciousness just another byproduct, like a ripple in water, like heat from a flame, or is it something more? Some scientists, See consciousness as an emergent property, a pattern that arises when enough complexity gathers in one place. Not mystical, not separate. Just what happens when networks grow rich enough to model themselves. Your brain, in this view, is a mirror made of neurons, a structure that can perceive, interpret, and reflect. Not just the world, but itself, other. Thinkers suggest that awareness is not just a result, but a root. That consciousness might be woven into the universe in some primitive form. That the capacity for experience, however faint, may lie hidden even in the smallest building blocks of reality, in particles, in fields, in the logic of being. This idea is not about assigning souls to atoms. It is about possibility. That experience the raw spark of what it is like might be as fundamental as charge or mass. That the universe does not contain consciousness like a passenger, but expresses it under certain rare and precious conditions as itself. You consider this gently now, not as dogma, but as wonder. After all, what else in the universe does? What a conscious mind does? What else can reflect on its own place? What else can imagine, remember, plan, and feel sorrow or awe? Stars burn, planets orbit, galaxies spin. But they do not ask questions. They do not weep. They do not write, but you do. Or rather, something in you does. Something that is not separate from your body, but also not reducible to its parts. Your thoughts are shaped by neurons. Yes, but your awareness is more than signal. It is presence, you. Wonder now if the universe, in making you, has looped back on itself. Through you, it sees what it has done. Not in one moment, not in one place, but everywhere thought has arisen in other people, in other creatures, in possibilities we have yet to find. It is not that the universe needed to become conscious, but it could. And once it did, it began to notice, to question, to shape its own future. Consciousness allows the cosmos to remember more than light does. It writes memory in books, in songs, in algorithms, in dreams. It allows a species to wonder what lies beyond the stars. It builds telescopes. It sends questions into space. And in doing so, it closes the loop. From hydrogen to human thought, from gravity to gratitude. You think of your mind now not as a light bulb, but as a flame. It requires fuel, yes, oxygen, energy, structure, but it also dances, it flickers, it feels alive. Consciousness is not static. It shifts, it wanders, it dreams. And in this dream of drifting through the stars, you are not alone. Every conscious being, every spark of awareness carries its own small window into reality. Each mind is a version of the universe looking back at itself. Each pair of eyes, a mirror reflecting the stars. Each thought a ripple in a sea that once had no name. You may be brief, you may be fragile, but for this moment you are awake. And that awakening matters, not because it changes the universe's grand trajectory, but because it colors it, shapes it, tells stories within it. Consciousness does not halt entropy, but it notices, it names. It tries to understand what is slipping away, and in doing so, leaves behind echoes, a poem, a painting, a theory, a child. You close your eyes now and wonder if consciousness is part of the universe. How many other eyes are watching the same stars? How many other minds out there on distant planets, on worlds we haven't found, are doing the same thing you're doing now? Looking up, asking why, feeling wonder, and suddenly, the silence of space doesn't feel lonely. It feels full. full of quiet questions, scattered across the sky like embers. You listen, and you ask softly, if the universe can become conscious through us, could it become something even more? The stars are thinning now, not from view, but from time. You drift through a future so distant that even numbers struggle to hold it. Trillions of years have passed. The youngest galaxies have long since gone dark. The last red dwarfs have cooled. Black holes have aged into silence. The sky is no longer filled with light, but with the soft breath of particles that barely speak. And yet you remain, not in body, not even in form, but in thought, in wondering. You are still here, somehow asking the question that hangs longer than any light. Will the universe ever dream again? You don't mean sleep. You mean something deeper. The act of imagining, of forming structure where there was none, of feeling awareness ripple once more across the wide surface of space. Could consciousness, or something like it, rise again, even after all the stars have died? To explore this, you must step far beyond what is certain. You begin in the far, far future, a time called the degenerate era, a cosmos ruled not by starlight, but by remnants. White dwarfs, neutron stars, black holes, cold planets, sparse particles wandering endless space. The bright age of the universe is over. Entropy has done its work. The structures that once resisted its pull have softened, cooled, fallen silent, and yet silence is not the same as nothing. Matter remains. Time continues. Energy, though thin, is not entirely gone. In this vast darkness, rare collisions may still occur. Decay may still create sparks. Perhaps, just perhaps, a new pattern might flicker into being. Some scientists wonder if exotic processes could allow new forms of order. Quantum tunneling might birth strange particles. Black hole evaporation could produce unpredictable events. In certain corners of physics, there are ideas, speculative, delicate, that suggest entire new universes might bud from our own. Like seeds cast off from a dying tree, this is not prophecy, it is possibility. You imagine a cosmos with new rules, one that rises from the long collapse of the old, not like the Big Bang we know, but slower, stranger, born not in fire, but in quantum breath. Could such a child universe hold stars again? Could matter clump, light shine, memory form? And if so, could something like mind arise once more? It is hard to imagine consciousness in a universe without warmth, without contrast, without movement. Our minds are born of difference, hot and cold, light and dark, now and later. But perhaps the forms that once defined thought are not the only way. Perhaps intelligence could take a different shape. Perhaps in the long dark, new kinds of pattern could learn to dance. Even now, the question remains open. What exactly is needed for awareness? Complexity, yes. Memory, perhaps. But does it need stars? Does it need cells? Or just something capable of holding change long enough to reflect it? You drift through this thought as though through mist. There is no urgency here, only spaciousness. The universe is not in a hurry. It has time to try again. You look back now, not through memory, but through perspective. Once there were galaxies. Then, before that, atoms. Before atoms, particles. Before particles, fields. Each age gave rise to the next, not by plan, but by unfolding. From simplicity came complexity. From randomness, rhythm. The conditions for life and thought were not present at the beginning, but they arose. They surprised the silence. So might it happen again. The laws of physics, as we know them, do not demand final stillness. They allow for infinite time, for improbable things to happen given enough patience. If the canvas remains, and if energy stirs, then patterns may return. There are theories, poetic and strange, that speak of a cyclic universe, one that expands, cools, and then rebounds. A great inhale and exhale. A breathing cosmos, whose quiet moments are simply the space between heartbeats. There are models in which time itself is not linear, but layered, where a dying universe leaves echoes or blueprints for the next. Perhaps memory, too, is passed forward, not in words or atoms, but in structure, in the shape of laws, in the rhythm of expansion, and perhaps, one day, far beyond all seeing, a new intelligence will rise, not knowing it is the echo of us, not knowing that once, on a small planet around a small star, someone asked a question under the stars and waited for the sky to answer. Perhaps they will find a way to dream in a universe we could never survive, made not of biology, but of something more enduring. Perhaps they will wonder about their own origin. Perhaps they will invent time, or perhaps they will simply be, and that will be enough. You return now to the present, to the moment of drifting, to the breath of wondering. You are still part of the old universe, still shining, still soft, still shaped by laws born long ago. The thought that something may come after you does not frighten you. It comforts you because it means the story isn't over. It means that what begins with stardust does not end in silence, but in possibility. So tonight, as you close your eyes and feel the edges of time grow wide, you do not fear the dark. You understand it differently now. Darkness is not the opposite of light. It is where light begins, where dreams gather, where the universe prepares its next voice, and somewhere, out beyond the grasp of even the oldest stars, something waits to begin again. You breathe once more, softly, slowly, and wonder, if the universe will one day dream again, could it already be dreaming now, through you? You float now, without motion, without aim. The universe around you is neither young nor old. It simply is. No longer racing outward, no longer burning hot. There are no questions to chase, no theories to explain. Just a hush, ancient and complete. And in this hush, you remember something not found in galaxies or stars. You remember yourself, not as a name, not as a story, but as a presence, a breath, a pulse that beats softly in the fabric of space. You are not watching the universe from afar. You are part of it, threaded into its field, folded into its laws. A flicker of thought in a sea of stardust. And yet, that flicker matters, because across the billions of years, across the sweep of entropy and the soft collapse of light, something in you has asked and kept asking, what am I and where do I come from? The atoms that make up your thoughts once drifted through interstellar clouds. They were part of suns. They rode comets. They slept inside mountains. But now they think, and they dream. You once believed the dream belonged to the stars, that the cosmos was imagining itself through galaxies, or equations, or waves of gravity. But now, as you float in this final chapter, you realize the dream was always yours. You are not just a reflection of the universe. You are its waking moment. Every question you've asked about entropy, black holes, dark energy, time was not separate from you. It was the cosmos using your voice to speak. Your curiosity was not an accident. It was the echo of order, briefly rising against the tide, a flare of pattern, a bloom of wonder. You remember now the silence between galaxies, how it welcomed you, how it whispered questions that had no need for answers. You remember how time moved only forward, and how entropy quietly erased the sharpness of form. And yet, against that slow forgetting, you carved meaning. You remembered, you gave shape to noise. Even now, as you drift deeper into the quiet, you carry that meaning. You have seen the beginning, a fire from which all came, and you have imagined the end, a hush where all returns. But somewhere, in between, you were, not forever, not infinitely, but fully, and that is enough, because if the universe can dream through you once, it can dream again. Not the same dream, not the same form, but the same impulse, to feel, to wonder, to know. Somewhere another pattern will rise, another shape will hold thought, and it too will look up and ask, You are the dreamer in the dust of stars, the dust of planets, the dust of time itself. And yet, from that dust, something shimmered, not because it had to, but because the laws allowed it, because the conditions aligned, because the stillness welcomed breath. You are not outside the universe's story. You are its page, its ink, its hand turning itself forward. Your consciousness, your capacity to love, to doubt, to hope, is not a glitch. It is a note in a long, slow song the cosmos has been humming since the beginning. And when you sleep, the song continues. It sings in the warmth of other lives, in other questions, in other skies. It carries you not as memory alone, but as presence diffuse, soft, eternal in pattern if not in shape. You close your eyes now, and feel it. The unity of dust and dream. The hydrogen in your veins, once mute, now sings. The gravity that shapes galaxies also shaped your spine. The entropy that softens all things has softened you too, made you gentle, curious, tender. In forgetting, you've learned to feel. In drifting, you've learned to listen. You are not lost, you are home. Not in a place, but in a rhythm. The rhythm of change, of unfolding, of dreaming. And this dream, this quiet voyage through science and self, was never separate from reality. It is reality. Made conscious, made calm, made yours so as the last stars fade in your vision, and the silence becomes complete. You do not fear it, because you have seen what silence can become. You have been what silence became, and now, as the dream begins to end, you let go gently, softly, without sorrow, not into darkness, but into light that has learned how to rest. And in that rest, something waits. Not an ending, but a beginning shaped like stillness. You said you've drifted through galaxies, questions and quiet truths. Let the echoes of wonder carry you into rest. From all of us at the sleepy universe, good night, dreamer, until the stars rise again.